I'm glad you've joined me today because I want to talk about a human universal, something that every person is desiring, and that is to be successful. I don't know anyone who wakes up in the morning and says, my goal today is to be unsuccessful. The funny thing about that is that if that were really their goal and they came to the end of the day and were unsuccessful, then guess what? They were successful. You see, we're all chasing after success. And yet, many times, the problem is we don't know how to really achieve it. And that's what I want to explore with you together today. You know, I've discovered that there are two different kinds of people in the world. There are those that I would call serious seekers. They are the kind of people who know that they have a need in their life and they're searching for an answer and they're reading things and watching things and listening to things in an effort to try and get that need met in their life. And maybe you're that kind of person. But then I've also discovered that there are people who are what I would call surprised finders. They're just sort of scrolling their way through life. And then they run across an answer that they didn't really know that they were looking for, but yet suddenly it makes sense to them and it connects with them and it becomes a life-changing moment for them. I don't know which of these two kinds of people you most identify with, but probably you can say, well, I'm in one of those two places in life right now. When it comes to this matter of being successful, it's a very important issue to me. In fact, my lifelong passion has been to help people become successful in life. One of the reasons why that is so important to me is that at a very young age in life, I began to develop a mindset that I was convinced that I wasn't successful. A number of things contributed to that, but one story in particular sticks out in my mind. I remember that I was a member of a Little League baseball team. In fact, it was the Pee Wee team. It was the youngest group of players at that time. And I wasn't very good, but I was on a team of other kids my age, and it wasn't long before they gave me a nickname, and that nickname was the Strikeout King. And from that moment forward, it was as though that name that they had given me began to become my sense of identity. I began to believe that I was a strikeout king. Now, others in my life would have said, oh no, you're being successful, you're accomplishing this or that. But the problem was it didn't feel like success to me. I always could find reasons why what they were saying wasn't really the truth. I continued to struggle with this issue of feeling successful until it came to a crisis point in my life. And I had a conversation with a friend who told me something that literally changed my life. He said, you know, I used to have a VW Bug, and that thing had a broken gas gauge in it. He said one day I would get in and it would indicate that I had a half a tank of gas. And the next day I'd get in and it indicate I'd have a full tank of gas. And the next day it would show that it was empty. And I never could rely on what that gauge was telling me. I realized that I was going to have to figure out a different way to know how much gas I had. And so I began to look at the odometer. I knew approximately how many miles I could go on a tank of gas. And so I would note whatever that odometer reading was. And when I'd traveled that approximate number of miles, I knew it was time to fill up the tank again. He looked at me and he said, you know, I think your problem is that you've got a faulty gauge. And you're going to have to figure out a different way of understanding what success means. And so I began to try and unravel that mystery in my life. As I began to think and try to understand how I could better gauge true success in my life, I came to realize that there were probably a number of things that needed to be a part of that mix as I came up with a better definition. Let me share some of those with you. I'm sure that one of the things that would have to be part of that mix is that it has to be lasting success. It's not something that can just be here today and gone tomorrow. Fleeting success is sort of like holding water in your hand. It doesn't work very well. And I think that certainly is true when it comes to success that doesn't last. And that can manifest itself in a number of different ways in our lives. One kind of success that doesn't last is that which results from chasing trends. One example of that would be, let's say you own a restaurant and you've been relatively successful with the menu that you offer to people, but then you begin to realize that there's sort of a trend going on that people like more of a fusion kind of menu. And so you decide you're going to change yours to reflect that. But pretty soon, your customer base begins to erode away because when they're showing up, what you're offering them is not what they originally expected when they came to your restaurant. And so you discover that these chasing of trends often doesn't result in a lasting success because it is just that. It's just a trend. It's here today and it's gone tomorrow. Another kind of success that doesn't last is quick notoriety. It's the applause that is there today but is gone tomorrow. One-hit wonders are also a kind of success that doesn't last. They're people who do one thing that makes them popular and suddenly noteworthy, but that's all that they ever do. And their success has become very transient because they're soon replaced by someone else who also is getting the applause of people. Another form of this would be what I would call temporary success. It's the kind of thing that results when you're playing, for instance, a sports activity and you win a game and you feel great and everybody's excited, and that's good as far as it goes, but it's just a temporary success because you've got another game that you're going to have to play. And that one may end up being a catastrophe. So I discovered that in order to have real success, it needed to be something that was lasting. There's a second quality that has to be a part of true success, and that is it must be satisfying. It was Tony Robbins, the noted motivational speaker, who said success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. I know a lot of times it's possible for people to gain a kind of success, but it leaves them empty. I've known of many people who have become very, very wealthy in life, and yet what they've laid hold of didn't really satisfy. In the eyes of the world, they're very successful, but deep down inside, they have a longing because they're not really being fulfilled by that success. There's a third thing that I realized was going to have to be true if it's true success, and that is it must connect you rather than isolate you from others. For many people, their successes have made them very lonely. It was Albert Einstein who famously wrote, "It's strange to be known so universally and yet to be so lonely." Lady Gaga has noted that her fame has been isolating for her because she feels like that people view her as a public figure rather than as a person. So if we're going to have real success, it has to be something that connects us rather than isolates us. Another thing that has to be there, I believe, if you're going to have real success is that it has to be something of value. It's amazing the number of people who chase after meaningless things. They achieve them, but it sort of demands the question, so what? For instance, Ashrita Furman. She was a serial record breaker who held the most Guinness World Records at one time, including the fastest mile while hopping in a potato sack and balancing a lawnmower on his chin for over 3 minutes. For you gamers, Okan Kaya, an Australian gamer, once set the record for the longest video game marathon ever played, playing Call of Duty Black Ops 2 for over 135 hours. Now, that may be a wow factor for a moment, but it's really sort of a meaningless thing, isn't it? The kind of success that we really need in life is something that has real value to it. So with that criteria in mind, that it has to be something that lasts, it has to bring fulfillment, it has to be something that connects us, and it has to be something that is really meaningful. When I tried to understand how to take those 4 elements of true success and apply them to my life, I realized that I was a surprised finder because the answer for me lay in a vital relationship with Jesus Christ. I had been a Christ follower for a number of years, but that doesn't mean that I had settled the issue of how to be able to feel successful in life. In fact, in many ways, trying to have a relationship with Christ and not understanding that only made the matter worse for me. But then I came to realize that he was offering the very thing that I was so desperately desiring, and that was a way to be successful. And he said ultimately that comes out of a relationship with him. Now that may not be your frame of reference, and if not, that's fine. But I know that for me, it's been life-changing because I discovered that the kind of success that Jesus is offering brings freedom, and it brings fulfillment, and it also brings fruitfulness. And I really can't ask for anything more than that in life. But I have to measure my life based upon those things rather than a standard that the world sometimes set that I could never achieve and never compete with. You see, Jesus himself said that when we have a relationship with him, it can be transformative for us in the way we live out our lives. You see, he offers us freedom. He said, "And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And if the Son shall make you free, you'll be free indeed," because he is the source of truth. He is the one who can really help us to understand what the facts and reality of life really are. And therefore, as we align our lives with his, we experience a wonderful freedom that otherwise we couldn't experience. And then it was Jesus also who said, "I came that you might have life and that you might have it abundantly." This kind of abundant life, a fulfilling and meaningful life, is found through that relationship with him. And when it comes to the matter of fruitfulness, it was Jesus who said, "I am the vine and you're the branches. If you abide in me and I in you, you'll bring forth much fruit." The life of blessing that he offers is one that enriches the lives of our family and friends and people we meet along the way. And so in him, I've discovered the answer that I was looking for. I don't know where this finds you today, but I want to ask you, what's going to be your one takeaway? You see, at the heart of a vital relationship with Jesus Christ is an amazing transformation that takes place. The Bible says this, "If any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. Behold, the old has passed away. Behold, all things have become new." And so the life offered to us is a life that is a wonderfully transformed life through that relationship with Christ. If this seems to be an answer that you've been looking for, or maybe one that has caught you off guard, but you really deep down inside know is the answer in life, then you might just simply say this, "Jesus, if you're who this guy says you are, and you can really help me to be successful in life, then I want to know you." I promise you, he knows you and wants to have that relationship with you. Now, if what you've heard today has been a benefit to you, then I'm going to ask you to help me in 2 or 3 different ways. One, would you like this video? If it's something that you liked, then let that be known. And then also, if you would take the time to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Those 2 things really make it possible for a channel to be seen very broadly on YouTube. And I want to make an impact through the things that I'm sharing week to week. So help me out in that if you would. And then if you would leave some comments, that would be so important because I can learn from the things you share. I want to get better. I better get better. And you can help me in that regard. And then if what we've talked about today is something you say, I know someone else who might benefit from this, then share this video. Oh, this matter of transformation is so important in life. We don't want to live static, stuck lives where nothing is changing from day to day, but we're just sort of in that same old rut. I've come to the conclusion that life is infinitely interesting. And therefore, there are innumerable topics that we can talk about in the coming weeks. I'm going to invite you to join me week to week as we explore some of these wonderful truths that can make such a difference in our lives. This is Seeking Transformation. and my name is Glenn Plum. Thanks for joining me.